The Count Lucanor is a short little top-down adventure game weaved together by the small team at Baroque Decay. The game follows the story of a young boy named Hans living alone with his mother in a small home on the edge of a forest and a village. The boy's father had left to fight in a war years before the game begins, and he and his mother scraped together a simple, poor living. On Hans's 10th birthday, he decided that he'd had enough of the peasant life and set out in search of glory, adventure, and above all else, wealth. He shortly and mysteriously found himself inside the castle of a mysterious Count Lucanor. A curious little blue creature told Hans that if he could overcome the Count's trials, Hans would be granted the Count's legacy. He would take the Count's title, his wealth, and his fantastic and marvelous castle. Hans, ever hungry for adventure, accepted the challenge. From there, the game opens up into a handful of rooms, secrets, and puzzles. There are a number of small choices that you can make along the way, each with their own effects on the story. As you make progress, time will pass within the castle. Opportunities for small side decisions will appear and disappear, the castle will get more dangerous, and it all builds up to the final arc in a dungeon. I'll be totally frank here. I definitely enjoyed the Count Lucanor, but there are parts of it that I feel could be greatly improved. It's a fun, creative game that had so much potential that it just didn't deliver on. I expected a terrifying, grim, and even tragic story. Instead, I got a game that tries at times to be horrifying or psychological, and it just doesn't always stick the landing. A big part of the reason that the game isn't truly terrifying, honestly, isn't its art. The art is actually pretty good, especially for pixel art. I think that the problem really lies with the fact that you spend almost the entire game in the same environment, the same few halls and rooms, with things rarely actually changing. If there had been more trials, more environments, more changes to the environment that you go through, and more monsters hunting you, then I think that things would have been really, really amazing. Now, that said, I want to reiterate that I did enjoy the game, and towards the end, it actually delivers pretty well on what my original expectations were. The final act, without spoiling anything, is pretty damn awesome, but it's just too short. If the rest of the game had been more similar to the final act, perhaps not in environment, but in challenge and creativity and tone, then I really think that Count Lucanor could honestly be an amazing game. Now then, the puzzle designs are generally pretty interesting, though a lot of the solutions are as simple as get an item and come back, which I think is a shame. It would have been nice to have riddles and more logic puzzles. There's actually a really cool puzzle where you have to distract a monster at just the right time, and I love how close it puts you to this hostile creature. It was really well done. More of that. More danger and more logic. A lot of the choices that you can make during the game are pretty obvious, and they follow a pretty strict good karma for good deeds logic. It's very clearly designed to follow Fairytale logic, and I wish that the developers had done that differently. This is likely just personal taste, but I would love to have something negative happen because of a good deed I did. And I also think that reactions to deeds should be a bit less obvious. A lot of the time, characters will just straight up say, hey, you helped me, so here's this thing. Making the reactions more natural and making characters more untrustworthy would really add to the psychological aspect of the game, make the player feel even more alone. Another point that I have to make is that it takes ages to get anywhere. Hans moves really slowly, and I understand that this was likely a deliberate decision for pacing and tension, but it just doesn't really work out that well. The walking speed is fine, but being unable to move faster actually limits creature design and even puzzle design. I think that if the player could sprint for just a short amount of time, then we could have a few more monster varieties and different puzzles. Maybe a boulder that you need to run from, or monsters that will sneak up on you and then actually charge at you, or some that'll chase you down really quickly. Branching off from that, these different monsters and puzzles could appear in other environments, something between the castle and the final act. And, you know, having that additional environment between the two that already exist would add loads to the pacing of the game and allow for more creativity with design and even character development. I do think that the Count Lucanor is a fairly decent game. It's creative, and at times, it shows worlds of potential. The only real problems that it has are places where that potential could have been acted on. They're missed opportunities spread throughout. If Baroque Decay were to take another whack at this kind of game, I'd be very interested to see what they've learned and what they can really do. You can pick this up on Steam for about $10. If you're into this kind of game, I think you'll enjoy it for what it is. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Indie Bytes. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please remember to leave a like and subscribe for more stuff like this. Be sure to check out the other content that we put out on this channel, and remember to drop me a line here on Twitter or through email with any game recommendations that you've got. You can find all that stuff down in the description below. I'll see you next time. Bye!